time for a few questions, and the Congressman will be here after, but we're going to try to And we're on. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the March 26, 2024 Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce ChamberCast. I'd like to have a huge shout out, first of all, to everyone who's here today. Thank you so much for being here. And the folks that are watching live, because we're streaming live, and you'll be able to see this on Facebook and YouTube and all your social media channels. But I certainly want to thank Ralph Zucker and Inspire Development. His vision is what has made BellWorks a reality and a key driver both locally and also in the region. So visit, the block is open, and also they're up in Chicago as well. And so his enterprise is fantastic, true visionary. So thank you, Mr. Zucker, for all that you do and all your team does. I want to thank the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. This is a Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce event, a fantastic chamber, both for your business and also just for networking and also personally. The amount of content and the amount of opportunities you have each month are incredible. There are about 10 events or more. If you're interested in learning more about the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce, speak to Therese, who is here, the Executive Director. Thank you so much for all that you do, Therese. Round of applause, please. So please join the Chamber. You'll make incredible connections. We have Congressman Chris Smith here today, who his resume alone would take the hour, and I'd probably only get halfway through it. We're going to talk about a topic that most folks don't think about. We're going to talk about the topic of slavery in Monmouth County in 2024, modern slavery, human trafficking, and we're going to talk about the efforts and the work that Congressman Chris Smith is doing on behalf of the community, really humanity, and certainly the folks that with their steely spine and resolve are suffering through this, and their families and their friends, to shed light, and they say sunshine is the best disinfectant, to shed light on the work that's being done and how you can make a difference. Congressman Smith serves the 4th Congressional District of New Jersey, which includes 19 towns in Monmouth County and 21 towns in Ocean County. Congressman Smith, thank you so much for being here today.
Terrence, thank you for having me, and it's an honor and a privilege to be with you.
Yeah. You know, oftentimes over the years you wonder, you know, where are the leaders, right? I served 9 years on the Township Committee, president of the Homeland Board of Education now, and you see folks that are really getting things done and really working hard, but oftentimes, not just in this zip code, in any zip code, where are the leaders? Where are the folks that are doing things, getting things done, working on behalf of the people, and not simply just showing up, but doing things and accomplishing things? Congressman Smith is the most prolific author of legislation in the entire U.S. House of Representatives, bar none. He's first elected in 1980, I believe. You're in your 22nd term, am I?
Correct,
okay. Yeah. And so he used to be Holmdel's congressman as well. And unfortunately, he's not today, but maybe you never know how redistricting works in the future. Representative Smith is going to share important information with us today about the estimated 50 million people who are trapped in modern slavery worldwide. 35% of them are kids. 71% women and children, and all of it is horrific, and there's even the data that shows incidents of boys. Across the board, horrific. Human trafficking is the second most profitable illegal business in the world, $150 billion. It's become the most common type of trafficking in the United States, and it's happening in every state, including this state right here. So that's the topic we're going to be talking. Did you want to say something?
No, go.
Oh, we're going to be talking about that topic today. But first, we wanted to also go around the room real quick so you can share with us and share with the Congressman who you are, if we can, Jeannie, if we can do that. And then we'll dive right in.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elliot Cohen. I am the Holmdel High School Internship Coordinator and Business Education Teacher. And today with me, I have 3 amazing students.
I want Elliot to mention the film that a student made from Homedale High School last year.
Last year, one of our students, Ariel Borges, who's now at SCAD, created a PSA on human trafficking that won numerous awards here in New Jersey and across the country. She couldn't make it today, but I know Jeannie Wall and I had reached out to her. It's a terrific video. We'll definitely go ahead and share it. She was able to do this on her internship last year working at a production company, and she was able to film it at the Port Authority, and it's all about human trafficking.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Zia Nazir. I'm a student at Homedale High School.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ava Churchio. I'm a student at Homedale High School.
Hi, I'm Jamie Campanella. I'm a senior at Homedale High School.
Good morning. I'm Tara Demianovich, a board member of the Monmouth County Chamber of Commerce and a team member of Community Affairs and Resource Center located in Asbury Park. And we're celebrating change makers, including this woman here, this beautiful woman, Jeannie Marie Wall, May 10th.
How do I follow that up? My name is Heather Mistretta. I'm a professional writer, journalist, but I also co-founded and lead an organization called WAGE, standing for Women and Girls Education International. We are a global organization, but we do primarily mentoring programs here in this area that bolster self-esteem in both girls and boys. And then we have global programs throughout Africa, India, UK, and we're growing. We do learning sessions, and we also provide resources and work with like-minded organizations. And human trafficking is one of our foci, as well as the Native American community, where they are 10 times more likely to be killed in a domestic violence situation. So, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good morning. I'm Elise Leibowitz with Three Chicks That Click Photography.
Good morning. My name is William Willis. I have a production company, a film production. It's called Bold Media Films. We have an office right in the Art Factory that's over in Patterson.
Laura Onsi, Communications Director at Brookdale Community College.
Welcome. One of the best community colleges in the country. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Joe Schloter. I'm Congressman Smith's Deputy Chief of Staff, and I only have my shoes off because I was standing here a minute ago.
Hi, I'm Mike Cred. I'm a retired telecommunications worker from the Bell System, and I'm Joan's husband.
Smart man.
Good morning. My name is Joan Crett, and I am the youth director over at St. Leo the Great. I do their digital media, and I have a company called Memory Keepers Videography.
Joan.
Hi, I'm Randy Zomkatovich, and I'm with 180 Turning Lives Around.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do.
Hi, I'm Liz Graham. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at 180 Turning Lives Around. And thank you, Congressman Smith, for all the work that you do.
Hi, Carla Scarabino from Girl Scouts of the Jersey Shore. I'm very excited to be here. I know this is important for our girls. We have had Gold Award Girl Scouts do their projects on violence and domestic violence, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I am from Serve Pro, Team Harvey.
Hello, good morning. My name is Arman Kaimakyan. I'm the author of He Calls Me Redeemed, a memoir of childhood sex abuse, heroin addiction, hope, and redemption. Available everywhere books are sold, and I'm so grateful to be here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Your presence speaks volumes. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Teresa. I'm the marketing assistant at CSAV Systems.
Good morning. I'm Sister Debbie Drago, the Executive Director of Collier Youth Services right up the road here in Wickatong.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do.
Hi, my name is Kathy Sugden. I'm a member of St. Rose Parish in Belmar, and I'm a member of our Justice and Peace Ministry, and we're very involved in creating education and activities around learning more about human trafficking, as well as care for the earth and Catholic social teaching, but I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sister Judy Mannix. I'm also with Collier Youth Services.
Hi, Al Aloisi, resident of Homedale, on the board of the Chamber of Commerce as well. And I'm a tennis coach at Monmouth Regional High School, and also the pianist that you heard outside. And Okay. And also insurance, independent insurance broker. I shop around to find the best rates for you, life insurance, health insurance, mutual funds, blah, 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 blah.
And this gentleman has a special event coming up this week, right? Tomorrow?
Have a special event. Jared Logan, founder of Go for Hire Career Services and Hiring Professionals. We do your resumes, interviews, and of course staffing if you're short-staffed and need some great employees. And tomorrow we do have an open house / ribbon cutting at our office in downtown Freehold. If you want any more info, let me know, and it's totally free to come. Hope to see you. Thanks.
Hi, Nick Scherer, PMI Turnkey, New Jersey. We're property managers in the area.
Hi, Denise Shira. I'm his partner, PMI Turnkey, New Jersey. We specialize in working with homeowners associations.
Hi, I'm Paul Thurston, and I'm from Team Marketing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcy McMullen, and I'm president of Constitution Consulting Corporation, but I'm here to support Chris Smith, who we know for many years, and we appreciate everything you've done for everyone, Chris. You're just fabulous, and so is your staff. So thank you, Joe and Jess.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Angela Ashley. I'm with the Jewish Home in Freehold. I'm the Director of Physician and Community Relations, and I'm very grateful to Chris Smith because my son went to West Point and he was interviewed by Senator Chris Smith. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Scott Linnell. I'm a Bell Labs retiree, worked in this building many years, and now I'm a trustee of the Shore Athletic Club, a nonprofit running group.
Hi, I'm Brianna Rizzi, and I'm the Administrative Specialist here at the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, I'm Therese Rolke, the Executive Director of the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for coming to hear the important information we're going to hear from Congressman Smith. Thank you.
We have Ming Chen. Everyone knows Ming.
Shared Universe Podcast. Give it up for Ming Chen, Shared Universe Podcast.
Good morning. My name is Michael Orange. I'm the owner and registered nurse for Ethicare Home Health Services. We do concierge and private short and long-term care services, all with registered nurses.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elena Wharton. I'm a freelance writer at Tap Into.
Hi, my name is Jessica Rohr. I work for Congressman Smith as the Director of Public Affairs and Outreach. It's really great to meet you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Howard Stein. I'm the owner-operator of Home Helpers. We are a VA provider, so we give our veterans to thank Chris Smith for the work that COVID. If it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't have gotten an EIDL loan, and I might not be here today, so thank you, Chris Smith.
I'm Jeannie Wall, and I'm the owner of Hometown News, and I'm publishing for Tap Into. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you know, I have 4 pages of accomplishments for Chris Smith that I could read, but we didn't cater lunch today, right? But I'll just point out the last sentence. Additional information on Congressman Chris Smith can be found at chrissmith.house.gov. I'm not going to read the 4 pages. chrissmith.house.gov. What I do know is that the autism is looking out for life. In life, he's looking out for you and your 921. We're just going to die with. Bring it local to a top. Really connect with is in.
The home
his home and horribly, horribly abused her and then murdered her and then buried her. He was so cruel that he was actually out with the family and handing out pamphlets in all 50 states and in the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, elsewhere, Megan's Law, which requires a registration, and all of you ought to check out, if you haven't already, check out Homedale, check out whatever township you want. State police keeps these repositories of convicted pedophiles, and they rate them as to how dangerous they may be to the community. So the soccer team doesn't get a coach who spent time in prison for abusing little kids. So Megan's Law has been, in my opinion, one of the most important protections for children, and it puts all of us on alert. There were original concerns when it first passed. Oh, people will be attacking them. None of that has happened. The civil libertarians who came forward actually filed suit to try to have Megan's Law declared unconstitutional, have all been proved to be absolutely wrong, but it's a great way of warning all of us, starting with school officials, parents, and everyone else, that there is someone who has a serious, dangerous background, and the propensity to recommit these crimes is very, very high. So I've worked with the Kankas, matter of fact, Richard is actually a member of the school board in Hamilton Township, and with Maureen, her mother, who sadly is still hurting, both of them, like you can't believe, from that horrific ordeal of losing their precious daughter, Megan. But I began to realize after I wrote the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, that there are traveling pedophiles and we actually got a study done and found that so many of them get passports, they're good for 10 years, and they go on child sex tourism trips. They go to Mexico, they go to Brazil, they go to Cambodia, they go to all these destinations, Thailand, where they rent a child for a week or two, abuse them, and then leave. They go in groups, sometimes individually. So I put together a bill called International Megan's Law. I was meeting with the Thai delegation, because I meet with all the different global delegations on trafficking all the time. And I said, what would you do if you knew a convicted pedophile was coming to Phuket or Bangkok or one of your other cities where, unfortunately, child cruelty excels? I mean, it's just horrific. And they are trying to stop it, the officials. And they said, we wouldn't let him in. That day, I scratched out on a yellow pad what an international Megan's Law would look like. We then began the process. I introduced it. I got it passed 3 times in the House of Representatives over the course of 8 years. And each time it went to the Senate, the Obama administration on the record was against it, and it never moved. And I said, what does it do? Why can't we notify countries of destination to tell them, so-and-so, it's up to you. We can't stop them from traveling, but we certainly can empower officials overseas to be on the lookout, if they let them into the country, to be very watchful as to what they might be doing to abuse their children. I wrote a reciprocity piece in where countries should notify us. Most countries don't have a Megan's Law, so they don't notify, but I try to push that every chance I get overseas with every country delegation I meet with.
And they would even stamp the passport, right?
So we realize, and there's a very serious criminal penalty. It's the same if they don't sign, they being the convicted pedophile, up for Megan's Law at the state level. It's up to 10 years in prison. So it's very serious. We want to know where you're going, what you're doing, and don't tell us that you're not a threat. You are a threat. Again, the propensity to recommit is so high, and we know that they do this. And so we also put in a provision, realizing some may lie, say, I'm going to Narita Airport, I'm going to Japan, but they're really on their way to one of these foreign destinations like Cambodia to abuse children. So we stamped the passport. We put in a piece so that every border security agent will see the bearer has committed a crime against children. And believe me, I just met with the Thai delegation 2 weeks ago. They said they have told many convicted pedophiles, you're not welcome in Thailand, get out of here. And they also didn't allow others that followed the law and were notified. They said, you can't come here. You're not going to get a visa. So it's working. Well over 20,000 notices have been made. Again, it took 8 years to get this passed. I was shocked at the opposition to it, but it was there. And I still am bewildered by the fact that, we want to take the secrecy out of child sex tourism, because it is very real. These guys travel, and it's almost 99.9% men, and they have one thing in mind: how many kids can we abuse? And they abuse them to the point it destroys the child's life. So international Megan's Law is working. Now, I'm in a group called the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It's the equivalent to NATO, but for democracy and human rights work. I have been head of delegation for many, many terms in Congress. I'm the special representative now for human trafficking, for combating human trafficking. And I brought this to all 57 countries that make up the OSCE PA, Parliamentary Assembly. We've passed resolutions on it, and we've gotten others to start looking at, they need their own Megan's Law, and they need their own international Megan's Law component, so that we're all on the same page in protecting kids from this hideous
And thank you.
abuse.
That's horrible. It's so horrible.
But again, we call it the Angel Watch program. The Angel Watch program is, I've met with them many times, amazing men and women who make sure that these countries know in a timely fashion so-and-so is traveling. And again, as the backup, we have the passport, which is stamped in that way.
Yeah, and it's about really communication, transparency,
That's right.
efficiency, so they can make actionable decisions before
That's
anything
exactly what it is.
happens.
Better summation of it.
Yeah,
That
and
was
so
good.
in this morning, the folks here, thank you again all for being here. I said that today we're going to be talking about slavery in Monmouth County in 2024. And so someone, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
So let's get through the wait and what, because there are students in Homedale who have already put together fantastic documentaries and film, which, to their credit, that's the next generation of leadership right there. So hats off to those students. They get it. For the folks that say, wait, what do you mean? Slavery in 2024 right here in Monmouth County. Can you elaborate on modern slavery? What does it mean? Sure. What is human trafficking? Let's define it. So first you got to define it, right?
Yes.
And then explore what's actually happening, because folks, most folks, they drive by. There's an accident. Oh, I got somewhere to go. But the victims, they need us. They need people to support them, to get ahead of it, and to make sure they're not victims. So can you define it and bring it local here?
Well, in 1995, I did a lot of work on human rights in the Soviet Union and went there many times, East Bloc countries, from Romania to Poland, all the countries that were part of the Warsaw Pact, for example. And as soon as they matriculated from dictatorship to democracy, although Russia went back to dictatorship, we saw a burst of many of these KGB types, the secret police types, who went right into organized crime. And as you pointed out in your opening, Terrence, after drugs, trafficking, it eclipses weapons, which used to be number 2. Drugs is the biggest moneymaker for organized crime, and they went into this mightily. All of a sudden they're selling women, turning women into commodities for sale, and they did it with such impunity, with a wink and a nod from governments all over the world. Our government, our laws were absolutely infirm. I looked at them and I said, my God, we don't have anything. This is nonsense. So in 1998, I did a child labor bill. I actually had Kathy Lee Gifford, who was caught unaware that her clothing line was being manufactured in Central America through forced labor, children. And she was so appalled. I invited her to a hearing, and she just was, she went all out to say, not now, not now, not never, and it was part of the solution. My trafficking or original child labor bill, everybody seemed to be for it, passed the House, died in the Senate. The Clinton administration was against it. On the record, it just killed me, and I could tell anybody how appalling that was. Then I introduced the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. Comprehensive, pardon me, completely whole of government. It's a domestic law. It's also an international law. Every part of trafficking on the federal level that we do now is in that law, embedded in that law. We thought through it. We invited the full input from stakeholders who gave us tremendous insight. Above all, we listen to the victims, so it's totally trauma-informed, and that makes all the difference in the world to listen to, especially the women who tell you, this is what I needed, this is what I didn't get, this is how they deceived me. So we wrote a definition that said anybody who has not attained the age of 18, if there's one sexual or labor trafficking abuse, and there's any money, anything of value conveyed for that, that by definition is human trafficking for that young woman.
Right, and what you're hearing is not just sex trafficking, it's labor trafficking.
It's labor
so
too.
many folks, for example, aren't aware that Tesla that you're driving, those precious metals, can you speak to that a little
Sure.
bit?
I'll
Where are
get
those
that-
precious metals?
But
Okay,
the
you'll
thing
get
is
to
that force, fraud, and deception, force, fraud, and coercion are the second part of it. Anybody who has attained the age of 18, where there's any element of that, that is a trafficking victim as well. So it is an all-out effort to say, I mean, so many of the women who have been sadly coerced into prostitution, there are people in this country, and one of the biggest fights we had with the Trafficking Victims Protection Act was those who wanted to say, oh, we got to affirm sex workers. No, you don't. There's almost always an element of force, fraud, or coercion for any of those who are over 18 who sadly are being abused that way. And you know, it's just like it's a distinction without a difference. That was a major fight that we had, and we still have it today. You mentioned cobalt.
Cobalt, yeah.
I've had 3 hearings. I had one just a few days ago on the abuse of children in Africa, in DR Congo. And I've been there. I've been to Goma. I've been to places where these mines are, where they're extracting cobalt and other metals. But cobalt is what is necessary for electric vehicles. And I'm talking about unbelievable numbers of tonnage that is required to drive those vehicles. All of it is now being controlled by the Chinese Communist Party in DR Congo. There's 25 to 40,000 children who are in these mines. They're called artisanal mines, so they're very low. Some of them collapse. They're very, they're breathing in this dust, causing them to be sick, and that came out in my hearings. And the second part of it is the adults, 200,000 plus adults, all forced labor. It all goes to China. China processes it, goes into the Teslas and goes into the others, and then it shows up over here. So I have a bill that I've introduced. I've had it going for 3 years now. I finally have a commitment from our majority leader and from Jason Smith, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, where it was sent to mark it up and bring it to the floor of the House. And what it says is that anything coming out of China that is cobalt or lithium, the presumption is it was made with forced labor, because it's absolutely clear. It's all been mined with forced labor, and of course, in China, the use of coercion is ever present too in their factories. But so it would be inadmissible to the United States. If they can prove that the supply chain is clean of forced labor, it comes in. It can't be done. I was one of the authors of the Uyghur Forced Labor Act, we know anything coming out of Xinjiang, where the Muslims are being killed through genocide and put into concentration camps, is inadmissible in the United States. So this bill, it'll run into a buzzsaw. I asked John Kerry, who until recently was the Green New Deal czar for the administration, about it. He goes, oh, we have an MOU with DR Congo. And I said, with all due respect, Mr. Secretary, because he once was Secretary of State, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. It's aspirational only. There's nothing in that MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with DR Congo. It says, why don't you, do the processing in country? Why? Because the government officials who are being paid off get far more money by the Chinese Communist Party to do this. Just for the record, I chair the China Commission. I've had 100 hearings. My 100th was just last week. 100 hearings on human rights abuse by Xi Jinping and his predecessors in China. I'm barred from going there. I had a bill passed last year, and this is another form of trafficking, where they being the Chinese Communist Party, tens of thousands of young people, mostly Uyghurs, Falun Gong practitioners, some Christians and some Tibetan Buddhists.
Take their livers.
They take their livers and they take other vital organs.
Not
and
just a
they
cut of
kill them.
profits, a cut into their body to steal their organs and harvest them.
That's what they do. They take 2 or 3 It's a multi-million dollar business. My bill will criminalize the entire operation and focus on the Chinese leadership that is a part of it. If Xi Jinping, the dictator, has a problem with his liver, he will order, or the Communist Party will, a 28-year-old, average age, sometimes a little older, a little younger, very healthy person to involuntarily give his liver or heart or whatever it might be to him to keep his longevity on the going.
Targeting the Uyghurs and Muslims in the Falun Gong, correct?
And the Falun Gong. And it's hideous. And I you know, one of the hearings I had, one of the doctors who did it, and he said one of his patients, again, it's a person who's committed no crime, who's laying on the table, wasn't even anesthetized. He was in shock. He didn't know it. And all of a sudden, the guy starts moving as he opens him up. It is right out of Joseph Mengele and the Nazis, where you use cruelty in medicine to extract. And you know, they have hospitals designated to maintaining the longevity, like I said, of Chinese Communist Party leadership, but they also make money hand over fist. So my bill would also say if anyone with foreknowledge procures one of these organs, goes to Shanghai or one of the areas where this is so prolific, we could take action against them as well. But it's primarily aimed at the brokers and above all the Chinese Communist Party officials to stop this.
And on China, that's when they're not working to eviscerate our population with fentanyl.
Oh, that's another whole issue. Right, 100,000 dead people every year through fentanyl, all coming through the border with the complicity of the cartels in Mexico. But all the precursor, I've had hearings on that too. We've passed good legislation in the past that I've co-sponsored. It wasn't my bill to try to further rein in on that, and we have not succeeded. It's getting worse.
You mentioned earlier, a whole of government approach. I just want to touch on that a little bit. When you mention whole of government, for us, it's so far attenuated. It's in Washington, it's Congress, it's Senate, you know, and these kinds of things. When you mention whole of government, can you bring it down to the state, the county, the municipality, the school boards? Like locally in the state, you have a pass the trash law, for example. Bringing it back to human trafficking on the whole of government approach. Can you help us, to help empower the folks that are here on what can we do? What should we be thinking about? And then we'd like to talk about different industries where folks should be looking at what other signs of things. How do you human trafficking, it's not nebulous anymore when people leave here today. But what are you looking for? What do you see? That kind of thing. So whole of government down. What do you mean? How does it trickle down to the different other entities, the government entities?
Every part of the federal government and hopefully major parts of the state government and local governments, pardon me, need to realize that trafficking is pervasive. It's everywhere. It's in our backyard, and young women and men and boys little boys and little girls are being cruelly exploited and there was a lot of good efforts being expended at the state level. The coalition's doing great work, the Trafficking Coalition. But what we did with the original bill was to provide, there was no penalty whatsoever, really. And why prosecutors never took it up, because the crime and the implications of that crime, there was nothing commensurate with the cruelty that it entails. So I wrote into the law, that was in the TVPA of 2000, that 20 years in prison. If the child is 14 or less, it's life imprisonment. And we put all these, we ended the idea that there are child prostitutes. That's why I said the definition, if you've not attained the age of 18, it is automatically a trafficking violation. Some states have not caught up and changed their laws, but the federal statute makes it very clear that they are victims, and they are victims. Let me say it again. They're victims, and they need to be rescued. The second thing is, there were 3 Ps that we wrote into the law. Prosecution, and we tried to empower prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, and others to take this seriously. They have a lot of discretion on what they choose to focus on. There have been years where on the federal level there has been a lack of due diligence and prosecutorial discretion shown towards these issues. And I was very loud in my opposition to demoting human trafficking. And then in our law, the original TVPA, we said we need state laws. And we want to empower every state to pass a state law that mirrors the federal law. If you can improve it, please tell us. We'll improve ours too. And every state in the union has done it. And there's been a lot of collaboration with DOJ, FBI, Human Trafficking Task Force, working locally to make sure that every prosecutor has the penalty that he can impose upon a trafficker. And then the coordination, eyes and ears, making sure that law enforcement, I mean, there's a tip line, a call-in line. We wrote that into the original law. So if a woman is in trouble or somebody knows, you call that phone number. And, I've gone to their office many times and watched them in action. And it's amazing how many times in that dire circumstance, the phone call comes in, the police are actualized, they get involved, and of course social services and others are there to help them. The second part of it is prevention. My new law that passed a few years ago, and I have even extended parts of it in this bill that passed the House, which you have a copy of, we named it after Frederick Douglass, the great anti-slavery leader. I know his great-great-great-grandson, Kenneth Morris, very well. We worked very closely with Kenneth, and we named the bill after him, to do a lot on training young people to be situationally aware about what trafficking looks like and how they can mitigate the risk to themselves and their friends by very good curricula. So curricula has been created by the Department of Education, mostly by NGOs, including Frederick Douglass's foundation. So there's many to choose from. And I encourage every school board, every school to spend a day or two or more trying to make their students and their teachers situationally aware of how the drugs are used, how deceptive the traffickers can be, and when somebody is lonely and maybe even a runaway. They're easy prey, sadly, for the traffickers. So prevention is a major part of it. And on prevention, we also have, and back in 2010, this great woman named Nancy Rivard from American Airlines, flight attendant, she with Airline Ambassadors International. They began seeing that large numbers of Russians were coming in. They broke up again, situation awareness. They saw these kids coming in from Haiti and Haiti, like a lot of kids. One guy, 5 kids. Doesn't look right. What's wrong with this? Kids are in no way affectionate to the guy because he's a trafficker. And they come up with a plan, an action plan, to make flight crews, especially, but everyone, the flight attendants, situationally aware, to know the signs. Woman looks down, nobody will make eye contact. If you ask them, hey, where are you going? I don't know. Well, how many people don't know where they're going if you've been trafficked? So they have saved so many people, and they broke up a ring coming out of Haiti. 62 kids were trafficked. They were lost, but others were saved because they broke up that horrible, horrible ring. So situational awareness. I've traveled all over the world. I've gone to Newark Airport, where these trainings have occurred, where they teach everyone, from the rampers, bringing food, everything else everyone has to know this is what you look out for. We did with healthcare workers. We found there was a study done that 89% of everybody who's been trafficked sexually needs healthcare at some point. Much of it is emergency room healthcare. And like 59% according to one study. They go into an emergency room. Nobody used to ask questions. Maybe HIPAA, whatever the reason might be, no questions asked. And you got this guy hovering around who thinks he owns that person who he just beat up, or one of the clients just beat her up. And now that they're being empowered and taught, including our hospitals here, as to what to look out for. And what we always say, don't take the law into your hands, get right to law enforcement. Get to the local police, state police, let them know right away so they can interdict right away. Even with the airlines, when the pilot calls in and says, we think we might have a trafficking situation on board, doesn't look right. There's the police waiting as they off-ramp to separate the trafficker from the alleged victims. And time again, it also has a chilling effect. All of a sudden, we take out another venue used by the traffickers to move these victims, and it's working. It's got to work more. I just met with a group. I talked to Thailand, like I said, to get Thai Airlines to do it. We've asked Ethiopian Air to do it. They're one of the big hubs down in Africa. And I actually was part of and I set it up, before the problems in Kyiv with the invasion by Putin, we had a big training in Kyiv with Nancy Rivard and her group to train, because the flight attendants for the Ukrainian Airlines and others, because so many of those women were being sent down, they're thinking of going down to be waitresses or models to the Middle East. And as soon as they get there, they're met with, oh my God, you're now going to be trafficked. And so they were trained as to what to look out for. So, and the third is protection. Once a woman so the 3 Ps: prevention, prosecution, and protection. And the protection part is almost self-evident, to make sure you get her to a safe place, preferably a shelter. And my wife and I have traveled here and all over the world, because my wife is not only love of my wife, but of my life, but my best friend, and works on this all the time with me. So we've been in. I'll give you one example. We were in Athens on a human rights trip, talking about trafficking. So we went to 2 shelters while we were there. Then we met with the military. Then we went to Brussels to meet with NATO on trafficking. And I couldn't believe it. One of the admirals said, well, when my guys offload in Athens, they want to have a good time. And before I could get a word out to say, one of the women who was a military leader jumped all over him, as she should. And thankfully, NATO now has a zero-tolerance policy. The UN has one, although it's not as well implemented. And of course, we have one. We found out, and I'll go back to another question, we found out right after I got the law passed, a reporter, but also former prosecutor, came in and said, why are all these women showing up in Ohio, he was from Ohio, at these massage parlors? They're mostly Koreans, and we can't figure out how are they getting here? So he did an investigative work. It brought him back to South Korea. He found out, he went to many of these bars, and there was our guys, sadly, exploiting these women, our military men and women. And we had CP patrol outside, making sure that it was safe. And there were mostly indigenous South Koreans, large number of Philippine women, some from Moldova, Russia, and Romania. And he said, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, thanks for telling me. I didn't know. So I contacted George W. Bush. I asked for a GAO Inspector General investigation. And a guy named Joseph Schmitz is looking at it. He says, really? Is this it? And he says, I'll do it. So he looked at Bosnia and he looked at South Korea. Came back with a scathing report how we were enabling traffickers. And then Bush, to his credit, wrote a zero tolerance policy for the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UN, the way that we take action, it's the criminal code for our military, and it said zero tolerance both on prostitution and on trafficking. I invited General Laporte, who was the Supreme Allied Commander for our troops in South Korea, and I had him at 2 hearings, and he went all in. He said, that's it. We are not going to be part of an exploitation. I was so proud of how strong he was. And he said one of the best things that they did, besides making GIs aware of all of this, that these women are there against their will, they've been trafficked. He said our curfew was one of the best things we did. When you're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, you've had too much to drink, that's a formula for a very bad situation. So he put all these good proactive things in, and the DOD now has a full all-in effort to try to end any kind of complicity. Same way with the UN troops. I got word that a whole deployment in the DR Congo under the UN, under Ambassador Swing, who was an American, were exploiting little children, 12, 13 years old.
The peacekeepers.
The peacekeepers. There they are, and they needed peacekeeping because DR Congo is very volatile. And so I had 4 hearings on it. Went there, spent a week in the area. Talked to a lot of the soldiers, talked to the investigators who are doing a very good job, talked to our people from the embassy, and 4 hearings. And to his credit, Kofi Annan, who was then Secretary General, he did a good job of saying zero tolerance, the head of the UN. But then I did a 3rd hearing, and it was zero tolerance for the zero compliance, I should say. They were not enforcing it, and that's a problem to this day. They're trying. I just had another one about 2 months ago on peacekeepers, and again, focusing on, here they are, ready to protect. And then, unfortunately, some, and there's no real actionable actions taken against those who commit these crimes.
Well, and I'll talk for a moment while you have a little sip of that water there, because a leader, right? A leader. So if you're asking the question, what does a human trafficker look like? They look like everybody. If you look at the stats on abuse of children, it's a parent, it's an uncle, it's a family member, it's a family friend. It's sad, but the stats are frightening. You mentioned in the healthcare world, the additional questioning, and I got to tell you, Hackensack Meridian Health, what a fantastic, incredible organization. And sadly, we're missing John Lloyd, who recently passed. What a leader in that industry, and our hearts go out to his wife Maureen. What a leader, incredible visionary in the healthcare side. But in Hackensack Meridian Health, just on a routine visit, bringing in one of our children on a routine visit, and they asked the list of questions. I was so impressed that they're asking these questions, because you don't know, the child that needs to be empowered. So, because where I wanted to go with this now, if we can, I wanted you to have an opportunity to speak to the victim, to speak to, because we're streaming live, and there may be a segment that somebody can send to someone that they know or someone that they feel may benefit from the information. I wanted you to be able to speak. We're speaking about the issue. Can you speak to the child, to the adult, to the caregiver, to a concerned peer of the efforts and how they do have a team, they do have resources. So can you speak to the individual who's suffering and having to find a steel spine to manage a crisis to get out on the other side? Can you share your thoughts if you're speaking right to that person right now?
To that person, I would say, we care about you. We're concerned about your welfare and well-being. And there's a large network of caring people, including anti-human trafficking organizations. There is a hotline, you can call it. And there's a lot of praying people for you. I mean, there's a great faith component. I've met with so many trafficking victims over the years, and very often, not always, but very often, it is almost like with Alcoholics Anonymous. It is knowing that there's a higher power, God, that is there for you, will love you, reconcile, and help you. The worst thing that happens in a trafficking victim usually is that they say, I'm at fault. And it's like, no, you're not. You're a victim. There's subtle and...
You did nothing wrong.
Exactly.
You did nothing wrong.
And I've met so many victims. I had a young woman from New Jersey testify recently who had been trafficked horrifically. She told her story, and it's just like the stories are very similar. Especially when you're over, even when you're a young person, the use of deception is so profound. They're your best friend. They're befriending you. Next thing you know, you're on cocaine. The next thing you know, they're beating you. And then, sometimes there's a sense of, I can't leave. Now, one of the things we wrote into our law, this is on the international level, that was very hard to get passed was the T visa, providing asylum for those women who get here. I'll never forget, because I put it in there, and it took too long to implement, and that was by the Bush administration. And I actually did a hearing on it. Why aren't you implementing this? But we also said that their family members are also covered by this. You know, what they do often, the traffickers, is I know who your sister is. I know where your parents live. And so you go and testify against me, where you leave here, and we will go after them. So I want every trafficking victim to know that there are domestic and international provisions we have in the law to protect your family, so that, you know, sometimes it means actually witness protection kind of protections for them, so they become anonymous to these networks, because the cruelty and the long reach of organized crime and increasingly gangs is very real, and they know it because they've seen it every single day. So the whole idea, but the idea that they're not at fault, they got to know that. And again, the compassion that is shown by those who do the rescuing, including in that great movie you probably saw just recently about a rescue that took place. It was one of many in Colombia. The man that is the star of that movie, I had him testify in 2015 about the vulnerability of these children, and that they do blame themselves. You know, kids say, "Oh, what did I do? You didn't do anything." And I want anyone who's listening to this to know, you know, there are a lot of very, very compassionate people who want to help you. Now, one of the things my new bill has, which is new, we find that the idea of being re-trafficked sometimes occurs when there's no job, there's no meaningful employment. So we do a big emphasis on trying to increase their skills, their marketable skills, so they can get into the employment area. But I also wrote in a brand new provision, on housing. You know, and it's $170 million over 5 years to make sure that we have a housing capability available for trafficking victims. Because if they're on the streets or wandering, they're absolutely vulnerable. This is now after they've gotten out of it, of traffickers re-trafficking them, and they have no place else to turn. So this housing component is a feature of our new bill.
The supportive services, building the infrastructure
Yes.
for the future for victims of these horrific crimes.
Exactly.
You know, part of the reason you're here today, and we appreciate, is to communicate effectively to a local audience and a broader audience of the issue at hand, the issue that should disturb your day, so you're informed and you're educated. You have a fantastic group at the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce. It's essentially a force multiplier here. For the folks that are here and they're trying to distill the incredible amount of information that they're getting, if you thought of 3 key things for the group that's here that they would share with their friends, their family, and even just to internalize themselves as they leave here today, the 3 key items that they should take from this as far as communication, empowerment, education, and to broadcast that knowledge, essentially a force multiplier for the work that Congressman Chris Smith has done, is doing, and continues to do. What would those 3 key points be? And then we'll get some final key items that you want to share and open up to a couple of selected questions. But can you share what the folks should leave here today with and be mindful of about the issue, its impact, the means and methods that they can empower themselves, their families, their children, or grandchildren moving forward?
Great question. I would say first and foremost, and this may not be for everyone, is to pray about it, to pray for wisdom. You know, I love, you know, Solomon, his first thing he did was to ask for wisdom. We need wisdom as to how to combat this. And that goes for at the local level, every level. Every family member needs to talk to their kids, their grandkids, you know, in an age-appropriate way. You don't want to scare little kids, but make them aware that not everybody out there means your best intentions. They, you know, there are predators out there, and there are many of them. So I would talk to our family, start off, you know, all policy is local. Well, that starts with the family. Being aware, you know, there's multiple websites to look at, including the U.S. Department of State, Justice Department, of course our own state, the task force here in New Jersey, which does magnificent work. Go to my website. We've got all kinds of ideas, not just about legislation, but
Can
about...
you share it again?
It's if you just go to Google, put Rep. Chris Smith, you'll get it. But it's chrissmith.house.gov. But the other way is easier. Just Google it, Rep. Chris Smith. And the first thing you'll get is our website at the top. And we have all kinds of places to go to, contact, encourage law enforcement to be even more aware. One of the things that George W. Bush did right after we passed the law, he did a whole series of trips he came to Newark. He went, Newark Diocese actually ran it. Some of it was run by secular NGOs and others, but he went all over the country, and he brought everybody in. He brought in the NGOs, he brought in all the local, state, federal prosecutors, everybody under one roof, and to talk about a coordinated effort on this. And sometimes we get compassion fatigue or prosecutorial fatigue where you say, oh, we did that, what else is out there? This is ever present and getting worse, not getting better. Even though people are going behind bars for long periods of time, the permissive culture is allowing, and the idea that we turn people into commodities and exploit them.
I was going to ask you, so this is not getting better?
No. And even, what's his name, who barely killed himself in New York jail. What's his name? Epstein, yeah. Jeffrey Epstein. He was prosecuted exclusively on my law, as have thousands of others. There are other laws now, which is great, especially the state laws, so making sure the prosecutors, Sean Golden did a great job recently. He's going to do it again in a few months, where he has the prosecutor, the chief prosecutor here in Monmouth, and himself and other law enforcement, some victims who can tell their story. Because when you hear it from a victim, it just blows you away. It's like, oh my God, this is real. This is what this young woman went through. When my bill was stuck, and the Clinton administration was against 80% of the bill. On the record, I had all the hearings, so nobody can contradict that. Every single hearing on human trafficking until the TVPA was signed into law in 2000, and he signed it, so I'm happy he signed it. He was against 80% of it. It was dead, passed the House, sitting over the Senate, going to another, the graveyard of legislation, which is the U.S. Senate. And I brought over, my wife and I were in St. Petersburg, Russia. Then we were still believing it's more of an over there issue, not over there and right here in our backyard. And we met a number of women who had been trafficked, a group called Miramed, one of the NGOs doing great work there. And we sat for like 6 hours listening to these women. We had lunch with them, and they told their stories, each and every one of them. And not only were we numb and had tears in our eyes, I invited 2 of them to come to Congress and to testify. And when they testified, you could have heard a pin drop, because they talked about being raped every day, every single day, being abused, beaten. And it was like, okay, we're going to just look the other way or do a half-hearted effort on this? And that helped revive our bill, because the bill was dead, like so many other human rights bills in Congress. And it got additional wind behind it, and we finally got it into law. When it got to the president's desk, this is Clinton now, there were a whole group of people who didn't want it. Madeleine Albright didn't want sanctions. She didn't want the trafficking office, which we created. 80 people run it for the Department of State. They worked for the Interagency Coordinating Committee, which is still up and running, and it's been expanded to include everyone, including DOD. They didn't like sanctions. There were a whole lot of things they didn't like 80% of the law. So they had an internal battle, and we thought for sure he was going to pocket veto it. It was at the end of the session, because I passed the bill early in the session, passed it twice in the previous Congress, sat over the Senate, languishing, wasn't going anywhere. We finally got it, so that they voted on it, got to the president, and we said, oh my God, he's going to pocket veto it, but he signed it. So all things ends well. And it was, but there was a fight. There was a real fight inside that administration, because they didn't want it, most of this that was in the bill. And now, 1 year later, weeks later, but 1 year later, I had the seminal hearing on it and said, okay, you show me what was wrong in that bill. I asked Department of State, Department of Justice, all the different stakeholders in the federal government. They said, oh, we like it. And everybody was all on board then, thank God. And then we were surging to try to stop it.
Wow, that's amazing. You're a tenacious protector of life in all its forms, and security and safety. And that's why you're here today. That's why we're sharing together the information here. I wanted to ask you, when the folks are leaving today, what are some of the key items? What's the next big thing legislatively? What's the next area in 2024? And what can we help you with in your endeavors to help the folks that are suffering under the horrific human trafficking element that's out here? And so what can we do locally as we leave today?
Well, again, talking to the police, I would hope that the schools would have a day, but they're already doing great things in Homedale, but would have a day or two where they work to make students situationally aware so that they don't become victims, particularly when drugs are involved, which is one of the main ways that they entice somebody away from their home or in school. Pardon me. Make sure the mayors, everybody's on board. You know, any place when you can conceivably think, oh, that's where a trafficker might flourish, shut it down. And again, prosecutions-wise, we need more, not less. You know, there's now in the news about Diddy that he is allegedly being focused on for trafficking. It is everywhere, and again, there's
all demographics, all race, all ethnicity, all countries.
That's right. All
and
countries.
right here in Monmouth County.
Right here in Monmouth County. And so, you know, encourage your sheriff, who's already there, and the prosecutor, who's already there. Both of them are really, really walking point, and I thank God for that. And same goes for Ocean, which is also my district. I know that sheriff as well. He's all in, you know, to try to stop it. If you see something that doesn't look right, it's almost like terrorism. You see something that doesn't look right. After 9/11, we all said, you know, make sure, tell someone, preferably law enforcement. Say, you know, I think there might be, and we had a situation in Hamilton Township where a head of the labor unions one of them came to me and said, I think we have a trafficking situation. So I immediately talked to the prosecutor and talked to the U.S. attorney, but he had said that he had done that earlier, not the prosecutor, but the U.S. attorney, and they said, we'll get to it. By then, they had moved out. You know, they realized that somebody was doing some recon on them, and it looks like there's a problem, so they moved their operations, and they never caught them. So there were victims, but there were also, and the victims went with them because they just upstaked and went somewhere else. So anything that doesn't look right, please sing out to law enforcement, and that's the right people to call.
And you're certainly leading from the top. You're prime author of 5 laws, 17 resolutions.
Yes.
You're working hard every day for all of us. We want to tell you, we appreciate everything that you're doing on behalf of all of us here in Monmouth County. Thank you so much, Congressman Chris Smith.
And I would just add, Terrence, if I don't mind.
Yes.
You all have in your packet our newest bill. Again, we named it after Frederick Douglass. It's filled with new initiatives and a strengthening of existing initiatives. It's passed the House. I put my floor speech in there. It was a good debate. It was bipartisan, I'm happy to say. But as so often happens, goes over to the Senate, somebody puts a hold on it, somebody doesn't care, and it dies. I mean, their rules of procedure are very undemocratic, and I wish they would fix them. You know, from the filibuster, where you need a 60-vote threshold to get anything done that is of any controversy. I mean, as I might have mentioned earlier, I had this bill that passed on March 28th last year on going after this horrific practice of forced organ harvesting, and it's global. China is the most egregious violator, but it is global. It's going on in Iran, it's going on in other places, so that we go after that type of trafficking and that kind of exploitation. That has sat over there, coming up on March 28th, for a year, and I can't get it, and it'll probably die. It'll probably die in the U.S. Senate. I am outraged at it, and I've called the chairman, I've called others, and I get, okay, we'll look into it, you know. And they're good people, so I don't want to knock them, but it's like, just do it, you know. Just do it.
Just get it done.
Just get it
or
done.
Go do something else.
That's right.
Why are you here, right?
Yeah.
Why are you here? It's all about the leaders. You're putting power to the pen, power to the information, and to the victims, there's power behind you. You did nothing wrong. There's power behind you with Congressman Chris Smith, all the folks that are in this room, and the team in local law enforcement and across the board. Reach out. There is power behind you. Reach out so you can be protected from this horror of human trafficking. I want to thank you so much for being here today. Congressman Chris Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Terrence.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And we have,
thank you, ladies.
And if we have a couple curated questions, Jeannie, if you have, and then we'll wrap. Thank you so much.
Yes, first of all, Terrence, there is The 800 numbers are on that script, if you want to find that while we're asking a couple of questions here and a couple comments.
Thank you, Congressman Smith. That was an amazing presentation, and all the stories that you're telling happen right here in Jersey, as you said. And I just wanted to acknowledge that there are at least 2 nonprofits in this room right now, 180 Turning Lives Around, right here in the corner. Please grab our cards, and Community Affairs and Resource Center that are able to help in emergency situations. So just stop by and grab our card. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. And I think you have a quick question, right?
Yes, thank you so much. Your commitment to this plight is inspirational, and I've learned so much today that I plan to, share with many others. But I wondered, I had mentioned that Native American girls are disproportionately murdered in our country. Are you able to speak to how this is impacting that community specifically?
I can. Again, there's a congressman named Tom Cole who will be the next chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and he's chaired the Health and Human Services Appropriations. He represents a large number of Native Americans in Congress, and he and I have talked many times about the disproportionality of Native Americans, as you said, to violence against women, but also trafficking. So they are all part of the effort to end this, and he especially has been the leading advocate, Tom Cole of Oklahoma. Thank you.
Congressman, I know it's been said already here, but we really thank you for being, on the forefront of legislatively fighting this issue. I think it's amazing. One thing that's really jarring to me, I learned that it's like $1 billion a year that we're spending trying to thwart the efforts of the traffickers. It seems obvious if there's no traffickers, there's no trafficking victims. So that would be law enforcement. How could we get behind as a nation allocating, we just gave Ukraine $115 billion. So we're not even spending 1% on this particular issue. What could we do to allocate more funds to help law enforcement, to try to rectify some of this?
It's a great question. Where there is a need for more money, and there always is, like on the housing component, on the education component, particularly as it relates to job skills. COVID actually wreaked havoc on so many women who were doing extraordinarily well, and I know a lot of them, got to know them. All of a sudden their job was gone, and even the PPP couldn't save it, and the next thing you know, they're laid off and vulnerable again. So the support system is all important, whether it be a faith community or a non-faith, to hold on and link arms with them. I think there could be much more done today at the Justice Department, and I've asked for that. I'll give an example. I had a hearing last spring on the missing 85,000 unaccompanied minors that have come in through the border. I had Ambassador Dyer. I created her position. She's the point person. My 2003 Act, not the 2003 Act, created the Ambassador at Large as the point person for human trafficking. And she runs the coordinated committee, which includes all the agencies of government. So before the hearing, I said, and she's a very nice person. I said, I'm going to ask you about the 85,000, and maybe more now, unaccompanied minors who we think have been trafficked in whole or in part. We're not sure in terms of numbers, but you'll know where they are. ORR doesn't know, Health and Human Services doesn't know, and they be conveyed to people about vetting has been very, very slipshod. And I said to her, if this were a international adoption process, you do home studies, you do vetting of who you're giving that child to. This is a conveyance that is so threadbare. I'm the uncle, and off they go. Now, I'm not blaming border security and others, who knows where the blame is, but it's not robust. And so even the New York Times did a big piece about the 85,000 missing. So I introduced a bill to try to require them to go find these kids. So I asked Ambassador Dyer at the hearing, I told her before she came The day of, as she was getting ready to sit down and give her testimony, I said, I'm going to ask you about this. Please have an answer. I asked her, and she didn't know. She said, ask Mayorkas over at Homeland Security. Oh, I have. I've sent letters. I've done all. I got nothing back. So it's like, okay, see no evil, hear no evil. Those kids are probably either labor or sex or both. A sizable majority are being exploited, but we don't know. So that kind of lack of custodial care is appalling, and it continues to this moment. I've asked again. I'm trying to get my bill up, which will different than this bill, another one that I've introduced, to try to, really require them to go out and find where those kids are, and to make sure others aren't following suit. Some have suggested maybe 100,000 now. That's a lot of kids that could be exploited. If you saw the movie, the movie in a compelling way. Jim Caviezel is the star in that, and it plays, the great leader in that. I've known him for 25 years. He's been unbelievably strong on these issues, and he plays that part perfectly. If you haven't seen it, please see it. But we had a showing in Congress of the movie, and by the way, when you watch it at the end, they have a hearing where the leader is testifying. That was my hearing. That was in 2015. They say it's the U.S. Senate, and he actually said, Chris, sorry, they put Senate on there. It was your hearing. But we've been aware of this child exploitation coming up through the border for so long. And, just not to get into the border, but in 2006, we passed what was known as the Secure Fence Act. 80 to 19 in the Senate, almost 2.5 to 1 in the U.S. House. Schumer voted for it. Hillary Clinton voted for it. And if you ever take a chance, Google it, read it, it said, build a wall. This is not a humanitarian initiative to have a porous border where the cartels bring these people up and exploit them on the way up. I asked the president of Guatemala, about this and about his young women and girls. He said 80% are sexually abused before they even get to the border. 80%. So there's no humanitarianism in having, I'm all for asylum protections and all of that, the real ones, well-founded fear of persecution, the boilerplate language of our asylum law, but not something that is being exploited the way this is. And so that wall had total bipartisan support, and then it didn't. And now we have a situation where, a lot of situations, people on the terror list coming across all those problems, but kids and young women being exploited in the most horrific of ways. And it's really, so we're trying, I'm trying to get that bill on the floor, on the 85,000 missing.
And the movie Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
Right? And you're also working with Tim Tebow.
That's right.
With his
now,
efforts.
Tim Tebow, we're working on him on a whole set of issues of ritual slaughter in some African countries, which some people say, what are you talking about there? It's happening. It's happening with impunity. And his organization, which works on trafficking in general, but with a particular focus, I had a hearing on that as well, and have language that I'm trying to get passed in the House to try to focus on that. It's like, and the victims are often women, African women, and African children who are being dismembered and killed. It's just so horrific. But Tebow is leading the effort on that, his NGO. I was just with him a week ago again. We had a hearing on it, and then at his request, and also at the request of another man named Alan White. Alan White was the chief prosecutor in Sierra Leone who put Charles Taylor, remember how bad he was, the president of Liberia, who had all these kids hopped up on drugs. They were doing killing fields, cutting off limbs, doing horrible things. Well, Taylor was convicted, and he is now at The Hague in prison, 50 years. He'll never get out of prison. So Alan White was the one who originally brought that to me because I wasn't aware of it either. Ritual killings, and it's part of a trafficking scheme as well. And but Tebow is and Sound of Freedom. If you haven't seen it, please watch it because it's so. My wife and I, first time we watched it, we both cried several times.
It is incredible.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Jeannie?
I just wanted to thank you. And this has been 4 years, right? Almost 4 years that we've been trying to get this together because I think it's such an important issue. I noticed just being in Manhattan in Rockefeller Center during Christmas time, It was really sad. There were kids, I don't know if they were 8, 9, 10 years old, and I don't even know if they spoke English, but they're trying to sell balloons and different, I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, that's human trafficking. Those kids are being human trafficked in Rockefeller Center at Christmas time, selling popcorn and cotton candy to all these kids there, all these tourists there to enjoy Christmas. So it is in front of us. We just have to really open our eyes and look. And a lot of the people I know, and you can speak to this, they, even if it's labor, and even not if it's not sex trafficking, but labor trafficking, and they're illegal, right? They're afraid because there's the threat of, they're afraid to call law enforcement because there's the threat of them being in trouble, and that's what those traffickers make them feel like. You're a criminal. If you call the police, you're going to be arrested, and they feel trapped and like there's no way out.
Well,
right?
That's a great, you know, our law, just for the record, in equal way, criminalized and includes sex and labor trafficking. So the TVPA, the 03 Act, all of them, and the most recent ones, equally, you know, criminalize and go after labor trafficking. Very often they're one and the same. The person that's being trafficked or labor is also being abused and sold the other way too for sex trafficking. But you know, one of the things we've learned over the years is that many law enforcement, especially overseas, not here, thank God, they're on the take, and they're part of the trafficking scheme. They're bought. They you know, if somebody goes to them, they're fearful that they're going to abuse them too. So that's a major problem. And one of the things we wrote into the law in judging other countries, we call them minimum standards, and it prescribes all these things. That we also have sanctions, which are very, very severe. You know, against what there's 3 tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 3 is the worst. If you're on Tier 3, we can sanction you very significantly. But one of the areas that we look at is public officials, including and especially law enforcement, because that's where the Achilles heel is very often. And then there's judges who, you know, slap on the wrist or they let so-and-so go after he's committed these heinous crimes. So the tiers, if you ever get a chance, it's called the TIP report, Trafficking Persons Report. It's online. Go to the State Department. Every country in the world is, including us, there's a narrative with the 3 Ps, protection, prosecution, and prevention, and with recommendations to that country. And, you know, at times it's been abused, and I'm not being partisan here, but during the Obama administration, they actually put 14 countries with elevated grades that they did not deserve: Malaysia, Oman, Cuba. So Reuters news service, 3-member panel, journalists, investigated and found out that they did it for political reasons. In the case of Malaysia, it was so that the TPP, was a trade deal, could go through. With Oman, it was because they facilitated the nuclear deal with Iran for Obama. So their gift was to get an elevated grade. So what did I do? I said, you know, this is not partisan. How dare you do this? Because it also degrades our ability to talk to other countries if they think we're gaming the system for political reasons. So I had 2 hearings on it. The first one was to go through. I invited those reporters. They said, well, reporters, we can't come, but please, here's all of our source material. And had the TIP people all testify and said, don't do this. You know, get it right. That TIP report should be sacrosanct. What you say there should be the truth and nothing but. And then we take, I don't care if it's a friend or a foe. And in the past, South Korea was on Tier 3. Israel was on Tier 3. And when they were on that, they got off it so quick. And that was during the Bush administration. They were courageous enough to say, you know, friends don't let friends commit human rights abuses. Well, in this case, I had the first hearing, and the second hearing was next time get it right. You know, because the new TIP report was coming up. I said, how dare you do this? You know, you sell out every victim when you do that, everyone, including in the countries where, you know, they are Tier 3 or Tier 2 or whatever. It's just, it was terrible for political reasons. And again, we're watching it closely right now. You know, I've already raised a number of issues of what I think should be on Tier 3. It's just my opinion, well informed, but, you know, they got to make the decision. But I do think the TIP office will get it right this time and take it from there.
Thank you, Congressman. You know, you talk about the big talk is AI, right? AI, artificial intelligence. I'll take actual intelligence any day of the week, Congressman, and you're it.
Oh, gee.
Thank you very much. I want to share a couple quick resources. The text is 233-733, a tip line. 233-733, 233-733. And I'm going to talk about Stop It very briefly because I think...
That's the text?
Yes, and the hotline is 1-888-373-7888, 1-888-373-7888. There's a company called Stop It that we asked for a number of years ago. There's 6-year latency on my ideas. I don't know if you see some of that sometimes, but Stop It has been brought into the Homedale School District, which is an anonymous tip program. Just give you an example, if there's drug dealers in a school, this is an example from Stop It, and they're headquartered right here in Bellworks, where a student saw somebody dealing drugs, not in Homedale, it's different zip code, but saw somebody dealing drugs. They went on because a lot of children, they don't want to get involved, but they may have there may be a self-harm issue. There may be something with a close friend, but they don't know what to do. It's an anonymous app that this child logged on to. As the drug deal was being consummated, the police were on both sides of that car arresting that drug dealer. That's how fast information works, and there might be offline, there may be a way to platform that for human trafficking, and I'll bet you the owner who I know would be very interested if they're not already. It's a nationwide company, maybe multinational, but that strikes me as a way for the folks who are not sure, the victims or their friends or others that want to share that information, but they're very concerned about not the anonymity aspect. That might be a way for that to be addressed through communications and really leaning into technology when technology has become a bane to so many folks. I call it anti-social media, but maybe that type of technology might be useful to help empower victims, their friends and families. Wanted to share with you the Monmouth Regional Chamber, this is a programming note now, has a ribbon cutting this week for Go for Hire on Wednesday. So let's celebrate that business. You could also visit monmouthregionalchamber.com for any event information and to join if you're not already a member. Now, the next ChamberCast, and you're welcome to join us if you're available. I'd love to see you back. April 23rd, we're going to have the president of Fairleigh Dickinson University, and they're going to be talking about some of their partnerships that are ongoing right here in Bellworks. Yeah. So that's Michael Alvatrani, and we're going to talk about the university's new location right here in Bellworks. So there are a tremendous amount of fantastic things happening. So on behalf of the Monmouth Regional Chamber of Commerce, Congressman Chris Smith, want to thank you for everything that you do. Let's give you a round. All right. Thank you very much.
How about a group picture?
Would everyone like to share?